Morning. You're listening to the Blaine's World Show, heard each Wednesday here on the new WPVM LP in Asheville, North Carolina. You can also listen online at WPVMFM.org and watch on WPVM's Facebook page. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, and each week we focus on the Asheville theater scene, as well as on positive news and information about people and organizations in the Asheville area. And toward that end, it's my pleasure to introduce my first two guests, and they are Scott Burnette, Fire Chief with the Asheville Fire Department, and also Kelley Klope. And Kelly, your title is?
Public Information Officer.
Okay, well, anyway, thanks for coming on board, guys. And let me also tell you, if all is doing well, we're on Facebook Live, and so you can wave to all your fans and friends at Facebook World. And Scott, you want to bring the mic a little bit closer to you, I think. And I should mention that Fire Chief Scott Burnette began his career as a firefighter for the City of Asheville Fire Department in 1995. Chief Burnette has an associate's degree in fire protection technology from Gaston College, a bachelor's degree in fire safety engineering technology from the University of North Carolina at Charlotte, and a master's degree in executive fire service leadership from Grand Canyon University. Chief Burnette worked his way through the ranks and was promoted to fire chief in 2009. Wow, who would have? Way back in 2009. And Kelly, I don't have your background, so I'll kind of ask you to give the Reader's Digest version.
Short and sweet. I am a year younger. I've been with the fire service since 1996. I actually have a management certificate and been with the fire department. Started as a firefighter, kind of moved up the ranks as far as fire life safety educator and inspector, and then became their public information officer.
Okay, so you had actually been as a firefighter, which is kind of
That's
cool.
correct.
Okay, great. And the question I'll ask both of you, but I always wonder, Scott, you grew up where?
In Mills River.
Okay. And so when you were a little kid growing up in Mills River, did you always know you wanted to be a firefighter?
I did not, but very early I did. We had a pretty significant fire around our home, and a friend of mine who was a firefighter, he responded to that fire. It was a wildland fire, and our home was actually saved by the fire department, and so that got me interested. He took me down to the fire station in Mills River, and I fell in love with it and have been a firefighter ever since.
How old were you at that time?
16.
16, and that's really interesting. So that got you into it. And I'll ask the same thing too, Kelly. What got you to become a firefighter?
I'm still trying to figure that out. I actually, I have a biology degree, and I moved to the area, to the Asheville area, fell in love with the Asheville area, knew one person that was a firefighter, and I was working a contract job, and he suggested I try out, and it was a challenge, and 24 years later, it's the best decision I've ever made.
Now, how about the shift you made from being a firefighter to then becoming a public information liaison?
Yeah, back in, I don't know the exact, I had been online, they call it online when you work on a truck, so I'd been online for about 5.5, 6 years, I think, when personal reasons dictated that I needed a day job. So just went, talked to the chief officers at that time and started filling in for certain positions, and started to get background training for fire and life safety educator and inspector. And the transition took several years, but again, one of the best decisions I've made. And then ultimately, we did not have a public information officer. It was sort of a newer type position that was going around fire service, especially for larger departments. And I think I approached the chief, and it wasn't Chief Burnette at that time, and just suggested, hey, would you like for me to take this on? And of course, everybody wants somebody else to get on camera, so. But it also included writing press releases, and back in that day, we were faxing those press releases.
Can you imagine? Yeah.
Yeah, and long before the cell phone use. So now it's gotten really streamlined, and it's really much simpler and fast-paced type of interaction with the media and getting information out to the public. It's amazing how it works.
And that's kind of cool because that's a whole new skill set you had to pick up, though, I guess. You kind of learned it on the job.
Sure. We all started getting cell phones, but I wasn't familiar with the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, ways in which I needed to get that information out. For instance, today, Twitter is our fastest and best way to get our news out to the media and to the public. And so that's my main platform as far as informing the public of what's going on, whether it may be a major event or just something going on within the fire service that I want to share.
And it's funny you mention that because I'm somewhat tech savvy, but I've stayed away from Twitter. Facebook is enough for me. I don't want to do too many other things. but people get information via Twitter.
Sure, and again, the fire department has all those platforms, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. But what I have found to be true is that media outlets will follow all of them, but mostly get the information from Twitter. So if we have an event, whether it's a large fire that I want to notify and make the public aware, or maybe we're closing down a road due to a motor vehicle wreck, a missing person, that's the first platform I use is Twitter.
Let's talk a little bit, Chief, then about the Asheville Fire Department. And in terms of the fact that I kind of see you everywhere, which is maybe not necessarily a good thing, but it's just you're always out there. And you do, as Kelly was kind of alluding to, you do lots of stuff. I mean, you fight fires. What are some of the other things you do?
Yeah, our firefighters are very busy. Over 20,000 times a year, our firefighters are responding to emergency calls for our citizens and visitors that need help. So in addition to responding to fires, respond to emergency medical events, we respond to hazardous materials events, rescue incidents. We perform fire inspections to prevent those emergencies from occurring. We do public fire education to prevent those emergencies from occurring, and when they do, to minimize the effects of those. We also investigate fires so that we can find out what caused that to occur and help prevent it.
We'll talk about two things you just said, which are kind of interesting. One, you said that you'll inspect properties to see if they're safe from fires or keep fires away. Is that something that people can call about or ask about, or how do you find out more about that?
Sure. And so in the state of North Carolina, municipalities, local governments are required to do inspections of all commercial and public properties on a periodic basis. And so we actually will contact those businesses for them. So there's not a need for them to contact. However, anytime that someone has a question or a need or wants us to come by and take a look and do an assessment to see if their business or their public place is, or even their home is safe, they can certainly give us a call.
Okay, that's the service. They just call you up and then you'd come out at some point in time?
Absolutely.
The other thing you mentioned was kind of interesting, and it ties into a question my wife wants to ask you. But the fact that you do investigations of fires after they take place, is that an automatic thing you do?
It is. It's actually a requirement in North Carolina that all fires are investigated by the fire department. So every time, no matter how small the fire is, we always want to determine a cause. And the main reason for that is so that we can learn what is causing fires in our community and prevent them from occurring in the future.
Because my wife said to ask you the question, I don't know if you watch the TV show This Is Us. Do you watch it at all? Or do you
I
watch
have
Kelly?
seen it, yes.
Well, anyway, so there's a big fire, and my wife wants to know what caused the fire. They don't talk about that. But scary stuff, it's just, you think you're protected, in terms of a home, but that fires do happen, and I'll guess I ask you, are there some things that listeners should be doing to make sure fires don't happen?
Absolutely. The biggest cause of fires here in Asheville are cooking fires. And so when you're cooking, be very mindful and understand that is what causes most of our fires here in Asheville. And unattended cooking is typically what causes most of those cooking fires. So be very attentive anytime that you have heat, that you have food on a stove or any kind of device that you're cooking. To be very attentive. That will help reduce the number of fires in our community significantly.
Talk about also what happens if a fire does break out, especially if you're cooking. What should you do?
Leave.
No, but I'm saying immediately you just see the flames.
If it's a small fire
Right.
that you can control, if you can cover that fire, then that will help significantly. But if you're ever in doubt of whether or not you can control that fire, leave. Your life is far more important than any property or anything that might be in that home. So alert everyone that is in that home, and everybody leave and call 911 as soon as you get out of your home.
Talk about, though, the very first thing. So you see the fire burst out on the kitchen stove. Douse it with water, fire extinguisher. What should you do?
So water is typically in a kitchen setting not the best use. Sometimes it can be, but as a general rule, we like for folks to have a fire extinguisher in their kitchen and a fire extinguisher that is rated for a kitchen. And then that way that if they do have that fire, they can use that portable fire extinguisher quickly to extinguish that fire.
And see me, I'm putting a note down here. You know, we have fire extinguisher, but talk also about how frequently you have to check them or how old they last, because I don't know, you know, last time we checked ours.
At minimum, once a year, you need to make sure that the hose that's on the fire extinguisher is not cracked, that it's still intact, that it's still attached to the extinguisher well, and then also checking the pressure gauge to make sure it's still in green, so it's charged. That's the minimum, but it's a good practice that you get into a routine monthly of checking all of the fire safety in your home, including your smoke detectors, including your carbon monoxide detectors, and just making sure that everybody understands what the escape plan is. Monthly is certainly what we recommend.
And with the fire extinguishers, can you check them out? You mentioned you can check the pressure gauge, but I've always wondered, you know, is it going to work when I press it, but then if you press it, you can't use it again?
Correct. It typically will lose its charge once you press it. But if you invert it
Right.
and make sure that the gauge is still charged, that should be adequate to make sure that it's ready to go.
How many fire extinguishers should there be in a home?
One. It should be one. Ideally, you have one on every floor.
Well, that's what I'm
Yeah.
getting at, yeah. So if you just have it in the kitchen, it's not going to help you if you have it elsewhere.
Yeah, and when you're planning your location for a fire extinguisher, make sure it is on your way to a means of egress, an exit, one of the ways out, because you don't want to pass a fire to go get your fire extinguisher.
Right.
You want to be able to have yourself between the fire and the exit so that if you're unable to control it, you can just step out of the exit.
And I think that's one of the things, and I think that's where you come into play, Kelly, that just giving information to people, such as this show or other shows, but people don't think about it too much, I think, you know, fire safety. The only time you think about it when you hear a fire truck, you know, go off. And there's something that I guess needs to be, people should think about this a little bit more than they do.
Definitely. The Asheville Fire Department has a fully dedicated fire and life safety educator, and that person, and along with other firefighters every day, are in the public educating. It could be at a preschool all the way up to a senior center, but we are constantly educating the community just on what we're talking about. For me, I'll send out messages and reminders. Could be that we're talking about flooding coming up, so these reminders go out. But yeah, specifically what we're talking about with fire extinguishers, the Asheville Fire Department actually will provide fire extinguisher classes, and oftentimes it's to businesses. Businesses request it. I believe businesses annually, required by OSHA, have to have annual fire training. So they often call the Asheville Fire Department, and we will go out and provide that service for them.
Does fire department still do, I remember when I was a kid, I had fire drills in schools, you know, but I don't seem to see it as much as I used to. You know, not only, I don't know about schools, but even in public buildings. It'd almost be something like, they've never had one that I know of since I've been here at the station. Do places still have fire drills?
They do, and it's based on the occupancy. Schools definitely are having them, I think, a couple times a year.
Are
I
they
can't
required
remember.
to?
Yes, they're definitely required to, and they're definitely required to do it at all times of day. So
Right.
it could be during nap period or lunch period or whatever. And then businesses, depending on what your business is and the occupancy, then the requirements are in place. You may not be present here all the time, so it might not be a requirement for this business, but it is highly recommended. And that's something that we press toward families, because it's not required of a family, obviously, but we are going to highly recommend that don't just talk about a fire escape plan, but actually practice it, especially if you have children or elderly in your home. You want to see what mistakes are going to be made prior to an event and correct those and be able to talk through them. And we all learn by repetition and having a habit, and so just making that a muscle memory of alarm goes off, you got to get out. Because a lot of times what we see for children is, even though you talk about it and they can tell you where their meeting place is and what they're supposed to do, they oftentimes won't do it in that time of emergency. And so we want to educate and make sure everybody gets to their meeting place so that they're not fumbling around in the house looking for each other when some of them might already be outside.
One of the things also I know that the fire department does, and I've just applied for it, so if you can talk a little bit about the Fire Department Academy, or Citizens Academy.
Excellent, yes.
And I hope I'm not too late, I just saw it.
No, this is a great opportunity.
And-
I would love to
and
talk about it.
Talk a little bit about what it is.
So the Citizen Academy is basically open to Asheville residents or people who work in Asheville that want to know a little bit more about the Asheville Fire Department. Not just, that we run fire calls, but what are the different departments? What are the different daily activities that we encounter and what do we do behind the scenes. And so it's an amazing, I think it's 13-week period, once a week. In the evenings, you get to come to a fire station, eat dinner with the firefighters, and then you'll get everything from a history background. Chief has an opportunity to speak, hazmat, education, riding in a fire truck, just all kinds of fun but yet educational and very knowledgeable information is given so that people better understand what the Asheville Fire Department really does other than just drive a big red truck to a fire.
Will I get to go down a pole too?
Well, there is a poll, but we eliminated that a long time ago.
Okay.
Too many
Well,
injuries.
I can imagine. But well, I'm very excited about it. And like I said, hopefully I wasn't too late to get the application in. But I participated a couple of years ago in the Police Academy, Citizens Police Academy. Phenomenal experience.
Yes.
So this, if somebody wants to participate in it, I think it's on Wednesday nights too, coming up end of March. How do they get more information on it?
So this year, it's actually on Tuesday nights.
Tuesday.
There was a conflict in scheduling. It is usually Wednesday.
Oh.
This year, it's going to be, I think, a Tuesday night.
Because I thank you for telling me that, because I completed the form and it
Yeah.
said Wednesday nights on the form.
We're fixing that.
Okay, great. But
So
okay.
it should be Tuesdays from, I think, 5:30 to 8:30. And again, you will receive a dinner, and you'll be eating with firefighters and interacting with real firefighters. And so if they want more information, if you want to learn how to apply for that, then we have a website, and you just can go to asheville.nc.gov/fire, and then just scroll down under fire education. There is a Citizen Academy application. Just fill it out real quick. It'll be submitted to our educator, who will contact you. And I don't think we've ever turned anybody down. So, you know, you're not too late. I think we may have put a deadline of mid-March, late
Right.
March, up until the last week. We're happy to
Okay,
accept
well,
people.
thank you. I'll also, if it's okay with you, I'll mention in my blog, because
Please.
it's just a really phenomenal experience. And back to Chief, in terms of fires in Asheville, how do they compare in comparison to other cities? Like, it seems like, especially when I'm downtown Asheville, unfortunately, I hear the fire trucks a lot. And I say unfortunately because I guess in a perfect world, you never hear the fire trucks, but you hear it a lot. How do we compare in terms of fires here versus elsewhere?
We're higher per capita. Asheville, for a number of reasons, compared to the other municipalities within North Carolina, per 1,000 folks in our city, we have a much higher rate of fires than the other municipalities.
Why do you think that's so?
There's several different reasons. One is the age of our housing stock. The housing stock average in Asheville is 1964. Contrast that with a community like Cary. They have an average housing stock of 1995.
Wow. So the older houses get, the more fires that they're going to happen?
Correct.
It's also, I guess, in the downtown area too, because it's congested or it's very condensed. It just seems the fire trucks are going awful lot.
Certainly, density is directly related to the number of emergency incidents. And so the more dense an area, the more 911 calls, the more folks that will need help.
I imagine it's like police in terms of, you always want to bring certain numbers down, I guess it's something you track. Is that something you try to do, bring down the number of fires every year?
Absolutely. It's something that we track very closely, and a large part of our mission is to reduce the number of fires in our community.
Have you been able to do that at all?
So we have reduced many fires, but as Asheville grows, then the number of fires, just because of the number of people, also increases. So we're certainly making an impact, but as far as from year to year, do those fires go down? We haven't seen that, but that's not a reflection of the number of fires we've reduced. It's just we have a lot more buildings and a lot more people every year.
Talk a little also about pets, and I'll just get your reaction to this. And Kelly, it might be something you might want to even do from a public information standpoint. But one of the things we do in terms of our pets, we have a sign on the front of the house, saying that there are pets inside. I guess you should put children if you have children inside too. Is that a good idea?
Oh, well, no, go ahead.
Go ahead.
That touches to my heart a lot because there are those signs available, and if you want to use, we have a pet inside, we highly encourage that. Generally, we are doing a quick search anyway, and most of our firefighters have a pet and love our animals, so we will rescue those. What we don't encourage is putting anything else like children inside or somebody blind.
Oh, interesting.
That just unfortunately leaves them very vulnerable to
Good point.
the outside somebody who might want to cause harm. So definitely don't encourage any type of those signs. What we do encourage is, if somebody's outside, they can immediately meet the fire department, tell them exactly who's in the house, what animals, where you last saw them, where they normally hide. I have given lots of presentations, and one thing that I always say is, obviously, we need you to get out. We know you love your animals. I'm here as the Asheville Fire Department to say, get out, leave your animal behind, we'll come rescue it. Now, reverse of that, I know that people aren't going to do that.
Right.
That's just me saying what I need to say. So then I try to give words of advice as if you would like to work with getting your pet out, start today and start training your pet, basically. Don't know if it's going to work or not, but we all assume a cat is going to hide when
Right, exactly.
when the smoke alarm goes off. So where does your cat hide? If it's under the bed, put a carrier under the bed. Maybe that can be a quick hideaway place. Put treats in there, somewhere the cat and or the dog are comfortable going. That way they're immediately in a safe place in that carrier. Close the carrier and pull them out. As far as a dog, when the smoke alarm goes off, and again, you're training your dog, if a smoke alarm goes off, feed it a treat, feed it a treat. That way maybe it'll come to you when a smoke alarm goes off and you can get it out quicker. So it's training ahead of the event, just like we do for ourselves.
Do you offer the stickers?
We do not, but I believe some of the local pet stores, the bigger pet stores may have them.
Okay, but something, food for thought, or just a great giveaway item for you, or a great PR item, they're
We have
inexpensive.
had them in the
Right.
past. We worked in conjunction with pet stores when
Right.
we've done events and stuff, and so we have had them. Yeah, it's not something we normally keep on.
Because it's interesting that so many houses don't have signs on, about the pet inside.
Mm-hmm.
I tell everybody about it, and then they just put an index card on. But that's something, you gave a great bit of advice not to put other things on there.
And yes, and a lot of times if a door or window are open, that animal is going to know that, and they're going to get out quickly as well.
We're also equipped with pet oxygen masks, and so as we rescue pets from a home and bring them outside, we have the capability to use those pet oxygen masks to revive them.
Do fire departments still go up trees if a cat's up a tree?
Mm-hmm.
Is that something you get called on?
We certainly do. We do, and so
Good for you.
what we recommend, if you do have an animal up in a tree, typically that animal is very safe. The animal knows
Right.
how to get up there. It's probably up there because it's something scared the cat, and typically that animal also knows how to get down. It's very unusual that an animal up in a tree is in danger. It's a very natural place for them to be, and so it may take a day, it may take 2 days. So typically the animal is going to be okay. But anytime a citizen has a concern, we're always here to help.
And good for you, because I read somewhere some fire departments don't do that anymore. It's outside of their realm of, a call. Talk about also what kind of calls you also handle, because we're talking a little bit about fires, but you also handle medical emergencies.
We do. Almost half of our 911 responses are to medical emergencies. And so we have 16 fire companies throughout Asheville. We also have a 17th company that works during the weekdays. And so we have a pretty good geographical coverage for our firefighters to get to a medical emergency very quickly.
And so medical emergencies cover just about everything else? I mean, anything under the sun you'll get a call for?
So anything that's life-threatening, correct.
Yeah. And I guess the recommendation, same thing too, if you're thinking it's life-threatening, or if you're curious, call.
Most definitely. Anytime that you're in doubt, seek some help.
So a lot of people, Kelly, I guess that's natural too, don't want to call. They're thinking they may have a heart attack, but then they don't. They don't call, and it's a shame, because if they call, it's worth the call.
Sure. I mean, just err on the side of safety. If you're not, your body best, and if something doesn't feel right and you're alone, it's just a good idea to call us, and we can check you out. And we don't have to bring 5 or 6 trucks. We can bring one, check you out, and you'll have a peace of mind. But sure, we that's our job. That's what we're here to do.
How many firefighters are there in Asheville?
Almost 300,
Yeah, and these are all full-time?
yes.
And then, in terms of become a firefighter for Asheville, what do you have to do?
So a minimum age of 18, and there's an application process. We're taking applications right now. Encourage everyone to apply. And to apply, you go to AshevilleNC.gov, and once you apply, then it's kind of on autopilot. We will contact you through email and tell you the next steps. And so the very first step is a written test, and then after that it's a physical agility test, and then we have some interviews, and then a physical screening, and a drug screening, and a background check. And then once you're hired and you're getting paid while this occurs, you go through an academy, and the academy is a little over 6 months. And so we train you to be a firefighter. So you do not have to have firefighting knowledge or experience to apply or to be hired. We will take care of all of that.
Where's the academy at?
It's just north of Asheville in
Okay.
Woodfin, and it's at the Buncombe County Emergency Services Training Facility.
Now, is it, like you said, right now you're in the process of hiring or inviting people to apply. Are applications down, or is that just a typical thing, or sometimes they're higher than others?
They're right in line with what we typically expect. During the recession, we had a very large number of applicants, almost twice what we normally get. We were getting 700 and 800 applicants during the recession. Now we're getting around 400, which is about a normal amount for us.
But the point is, it's a process, so just because you apply doesn't mean you're going to get chosen.
Certainly, it's very competitive. With over 400 applicants, it certainly is a very competitive process because we typically hire 15 to 20 each time.
And are people told beforehand what they have to go through? Like you said, the physical tests and stuff like that?
Correct. It's all on our website. There's some videos that Kelly has created to help people see what that physical agility test looks like, and so all that information is there.
And describe it, Kelly. Just, for example, if somebody's interested, or even the physical requirements, what do they have to? They have to run a mile in under 27 minutes, or?
It's actually a combination of about 7 different tasks that are similar to firefighting skills, but nothing that you have to know ahead of time. It just simulates some of the things we do on a fire ground. And my best advice is, if you're interested in becoming a firefighter, this is something you want to train for. You don't want to just show up and expect to pass it. We expect people to you need to prepare for it. So going online now and watching the video and knowing where your strengths and weaknesses are is a good idea, and focus on what you might need to improve on before you come out for that physical agility.
And what's cool, too, is that there are women now in the fire department. Approximately how many women are there?
I
So we
think
have 14 that are working as firefighters. So.
Okay. And always encouraged to apply.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, the world is definitely different nowadays, and there are women in the fire service. It's a very, very diverse. We encourage, obviously, women and people of color, everybody to come out and apply.
Okay. And the last thing I'll ask you about some of the changes in the fire department, and one of the things, I know you have a new fire station coming up.
Yes, sir.
And what's that?
So that'll be just north of downtown on Broadway in the Five Points neighborhood. And we're very excited about it. It'll be our 13th fire station, and it will help fill a void that we have in that area for our coverage.
And when will that open?
So the fall of 21 is when it's planned to open.
And so, in terms of the Asheville Fire Department, if folks want to get in touch with you, let's talk about, I guess, 2 ways. So just general information, is there, I guess, the website or Facebook page? Is that the best bet to go to?
Sure. We have a website, which is at ashevillennc.gov/fire. You can get to it from the City of Asheville's website or whatever. And we definitely encourage people to follow us on Twitter and on Facebook and on Instagram, because we post different things. Like I said, a lot of our calls and our important information about what people maybe need to take in action is going to be on Twitter. So if we need you to take action, it'll be on Twitter. Facebook is a lot of time about events and things that the Asheville Fire Department internally and externally are doing, promotions that we have, and recognizing our individuals. And then Instagram is sort of more of a fun, hey, let's share this kind of information. Here are some great pictures. And so we get a large following on all 3 platforms, and whatever suits you best, I just recommend. And if I have this opportunity, I'd like to also encourage people to sign up for an emergency alert system that the City of Asheville in general it uses, basically. And that emergency alert system is called AVL Alert. And what it is an emergency alert system that you can sign up for. You will have to go in and set up a profile, put your cell phone in there or whatever phone you would like, and then up to 5 different addresses. So you don't necessarily have to live in the City of Asheville, but if you work in the City of Asheville, a child goes to school, a grandparent, a parent, we have people from out of state that may put in these addresses because they want to be aware of what's going on in that particular area. So if we were to send out an alert, let's say we'll use flooding, for example. If we notice in the next few days it starts to flood, we can send that alert to that specific area and let them know where the flooding is occurring so that you're the first person to know. So again, that's a system that I highly recommend. It talks about other emergencies, notification. It is not something that you're going to get inundated with calls. It will only be for emergency service situations.
You'll get a text on that?
You can sign up however you want. You can get a text, an email, or a phone call, and you can put it whatever order you wish to receive that information.
Good.
And again, we do not overuse it. We strictly use it for emergencies. And so again, that's something that we're trying to get all the citizens to sign up for. And you can find that on the City of Asheville's website or on our website. It's both places.
Good advice. And the last question for you, Chief, is that sometimes people are confused about this. If there's a fire, what number should you call?
911.
911. But anything else, there's a general Asheville phone number for the police department, fire department.
Sure. So, anything that's business related, 259-5636. But if it's any type of an emergency response, definitely don't call our business number. Call 911.
And just call it quickly or right away. Don't think about it.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, Chief, I'd like to thank you very much for being my guest this
Thank
first
you.
half hour on the Blainesworld Show. Also, Kelly, thanks for stopping by, and we'll look forward to hopefully seeing you in that the Fire Department Academy. I got to check my Tuesday nights, but that should be a fun experience, so thanks for mentioning that as well. Hopefully we'll see you in the near future.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and as these folks work their way out, I'd like to mention the fact that support for this show in WPVM is underwritten by the Grail Movie House, Asheville's alternative cinema. Grail Movie House is an independent, locally owned three-screen cinema located in downtown Asheville. For current features, visit the Grail website at grailmoviehouse.com or the Grail's social media pages. As our next guest works her way into the studio, I'd like to mention two upcoming theater productions taking place. And a friend of the show, a friend as well, Judy Calabrese, on Thursday, February 13th at the Asheville Beauty Academy, there's going to be a return of What Sexy Stories Are Real, Authentic, and Personal, and that's going to be performed by the artists themselves. We are sex-positive, body-positive, LGBTQIA, welcoming space, fetish and kinky friendly, open to all 18 and above, and so you might want to check that out. Kay, are you familiar with that? The sexy stories, have you heard about that at all?
I think I heard about it. I
Okay.
don't know too much about it.
Well,
though.
here's another acting opportunity for you. You could come and tell your story. Also, there's going to be a really good program sponsored by Our Voice. That's going to be Break the Silence speaker series, and it's going to feature an actor. You may be familiar with her, Kay Amber Tamblyn, and those seats are officially on sale. She's an actor, film director, activist, author, and that's going to be on March the 12th, and you can check information on that at Our Voice's website. It's next my pleasure to introduce my second guest of the Blainesworld Show today, and she is a friend, somebody I've followed for quite a while, and she is Kay Galvin. And Kay Galvin will kind of give the summary of what you are. You're an actor, and welcome aboard.
Thank you, Blaine.
Okay, you can move a little closer to the mic.
Okay.
And you can also say, Kay, you can also wave to all your fans and friends in Facebook world.
Hello.
Okay, so everybody's watching. Hopefully they are.
I hope so.
I should mention that Kay arrived in Asheville in 1990 and started acting at ACT, MPP, and several other small companies active in Asheville during that period of time. She hasn't stopped since. For the past year, she's been working on TV. The question, Kay, I always ask is, you grew up where?
I grew up in the UK,
Okay.
in Winchester
Interesting.
area,
How long were you in the UK area?
till I was about 31.
Okay, interesting. Did you always know as a little girl, did you always know you wanted to be an actor?
I did.
Did you really?
Yeah. I was about 8 years old when I decided I would put on these little plays at school, and that's when my interest. That's what I decided. I wanted to be an actress.
What was your first role? Do you remember?
My first role was at Warren Wilson College.
This was as an adult, though.
Yeah,
No.
I never acted. Oh, well, at school?
Right.
Well, that was a long time ago.
Okay,
That
but-
was a long time ago, Blaine. But I think that, strangely, the first one that I was in at my school was Twelfth Night. And then the first one that I did as an adult was Twelfth Night.
That's really funny. But go back
Isn't-
to the school thing. So you remember 12th night,
Yeah,
and you remember how you were just in elementary school, the high school?
high school at that
High
point.
school. Now, here's something I bet they didn't do, but it's a shame. They don't have a videotape of that somewhere.
No.
But here's the idea, Kay. I want to do a fundraiser for ACT, NC Stage, you name the theater. But everybody would come back and do their very first role, So even though you don't have a videotape of it, we
Right.
give you a chance to do it again. You don't have to do the whole thing, just a 5-minute routine. But wouldn't that be fun?
That would be fun,
And you could finally have a record of your first
I
performance.
guess.
So I just thought that'd be a fun thing
Yeah.
to do sometime, and
Yeah.
everybody would get a kick out of seeing themselves when they were kids.
Sure.
So you acted in a school production. Did you continue the acting bug, or you stopped for a while? Like when you were after you went to school and you were an adult, were you acting in England in your 20s and 30s?
No, not at all. I mean, when I was 16, I planned to go and audition for drama school in London. And I actually prepared a classical piece and a contemporary piece, which is what they always want. And I went up to London on the train, 16 years old. And I never went through with it. I just figured that, don't be ridiculous. And
So you actually went to the audition and then didn't do it?
yeah, I didn't actually even enter the building. It was kind of a big, imposing building like they are in London. And I just turned away, and I never thought about acting again until I came to Asheville.
And so that's some story. So that was your big chance when you were then, but you said that was then, this
Well,
is now.
I didn't have any support.
No, but, because that's a factor too, that when you went, did your folks know that you were going for the audition?
Well, I had told them prior, that I wanted to be an actress, and it was kind of shot down. So I don't even know if I actually told them. I just went on the train on my own. But I didn't follow through with it.
Interesting. So then that was a long time ago. You come to Asheville, 1990s, I guess, and decided you want to become an actor then?
Well, before I left, I was living in Florida at the time, and when I came up here, I thought, well, if not now, when? It's time for me to go and do what I always wanted to do. And so I started taking a class with Ralph Redpath when he was artistic director there in 1990, and he encouraged me to audition, and I was off and running.
Oh, that's great. So you just took the one course with Ralph, very talented.
I may have
or
taken
others.
I may have taken more than one class with him. I didn't know what I was doing, and so yeah.
By the way, Kay, how important is that? Some people say, I guess, with anything, some people are born actors, some people are not. Whatever the stage, though, you should be taking some acting courses.
I always think that class is important for any actor, whether they're an A-list from Hollywood and I've read that actually. It just helps to be with your peers, and I learn from them actually more than actually in some cases from the teacher. It's just to keep your skills and, learn more things, because it's an ongoing learning thing, I think, acting. You don't sort of start acting and, well, I know it all. Do you know what I mean?
What was your first role in Asheville? Do you remember?
It was at
Oh,
Warren.
12th Night, yeah.
Yeah, it was Warren Wilson College. I played Mariah, and then I was at ACT for a decade with Ralph Redpath, and then all the other. Asheville has always had a vibrant theater community, and there were lots of other little theater groups, and I worked with them all, and then North Carolina Stage came, and Highland Repertory, which didn't last, is not going still, and then I got involved at SART, up in Mars Hill, and I just sort of progressed like that. Yeah.
As you mentioned, it's I've been here now over 10 years, and it seems there are more theaters than ever. It's just really exciting.
It's wonderful.
That a lot of different theaters. So if you're interested, first of all, encourage people to go to theater.
Yes.
But if you want to do something in a theater, if you look, you can find something.
Oh, yeah, in Asheville.
But talk about that process, Kate, too. And I think it's harder for women in certain respects, their auditioning process, because it seems that I don't know, is this true? There are more women actors in Asheville than men, or there are less parts for women?
I don't know.
I've heard that, or especially the fact that some people get discouraged. Let's talk a little bit about that, about the auditioning process. You know, how do you deal with that? In other words, you've gone through a couple of auditions over the years, have you?
Oh, yeah, I would say.
Yeah. It must be tough as an actor to go for an audition and not get a part. You know, how do you deal with that?
Well, I mean, it's acting, you're going to have to get used to rejection. And I just try to be philosophical about it, you know, like it wasn't my turn this time. Sometimes if I know the director, I'll say, what could I have done better? Or what were you looking for that I didn't do, because I want to learn. But it is nerve-wracking. I mean, a little over a week ago, I went down to Flat Rock, and I've never auditioned for them before for some inexplicable reason. I don't know why. And it's just so nerve-wracking. It really is.
Luke Perry tells a story that it's incredible that before he got his first role, he had 256 auditions, you know. And what I think happens, okay, some people get discouraged, you know, or they don't get a part and they take it personally, I guess. And it's not always personal. It's just, you know, whatever it is. But it's just a game of numbers, I guess, in part. You just have to go for the auditions.
I think so. I think, you know, it's just one of those things. I mean, you can't help but take it a bit personally, I guess. And there's a great disappointment because the wanting is there, you know. And it's the same with TV and film, too. You audition and you think you really nailed it, but you're just not what they wanted, not what they visualized. And it doesn't mean that you're a lousy actor. It just means that, you know, it wasn't your turn this time, I guess.
And there also could have been other people who nailed it, too.
Absolutely,
you know,
absolutely. Yeah, I've been on short lists for film and TV with other actresses. You know, there were maybe, I don't know how many people they have on these short lists, maybe 3 or 5 or something, and you didn't get it because somebody else was just the right one for that role. And it's the way it goes.
Have you ever wanted to be on the other side, you know, in terms of directing or casting?
I've thought about that, but I don't think that, I don't think so.
Because I give people credit, you know, for doing both, and a lot of people
Yeah.
who are actors seem to be switching. I just interviewed somebody yesterday who switched into directing,
Right.
and it seems a lot of them like the directing once they get into it, you know.
Yeah, I have thought about it, but no, not
But
right now.
I would think with your background, you'd be a marvelous director, just because you've seen so many
Uh-huh.
directors, I guess, both good and bad.
Yeah.
Since I've been in Asheville, I've had the pleasure of seeing you in a bunch of stuff, and you said, you know, you've been in that many things, but I think I've seen everything you've been in. Do you have a favorite role, other than Twelfth Night?
Gosh, you know, there have been many, as you know, especially since '90. I've just been doing it almost. You
Well,
know,
let's talk about some of the more recent ones, because I probably have seen you in
Well,
most of
I
them.
would like to just say that one that will always stand out in my mind is Wit,
Okay, I didn't see you in that production.
which was directed by Ralph at ACT after he was no longer artistic director. And I just had to audition for that role, and it was very significant to me. And
I
it always will be.
could see a perfect role for you too, you know, in terms of just the role in that
Oh,
particular
it was
part.
fantastic.
Talk about some of the more recent things you've been in, and I think I've seen most. You've been at Magnetic, for example, Magnetic Theatre.
Yeah, the year before last, when Andrew Gall was there, he had asked me to step in on a couple of productions, and I was really delighted to do that. Luna Gale and
Well,
In the Clearing.
Well, take both of them, because they just one of the things I loved about both the shows and your performances in both too, but they were completely unexpected because I knew nothing about the shows, you know.
Right,
And that's kind of fun, and Magnetic does that a lot. I know NC Stage does as well.
Right.
When you see a show that's not something you've seen elsewhere, you know. And so the two were just so completely surprising to me, because I had I didn't expect anything.
Right.
You know, Luna Gale especially was quite some show.
Oh, gosh, it was.
You know, and then the other one was the
In the Clearing
Yeah.
was that I was in.
that was at ACT.
No,
I
In the
think-
Clearing was it.
Also Magnetic?
It was also at Magnetic. Yeah, it's a wonderful place to work.
Yeah, it really
That's
is. I think I told you off there. I'm going to be in a show coming up at Magnetic.
Yes.
traitor. So,
I'm going to be excited to see you on the stage.
well, I want to pick your brain then a little bit, because one of the things I'm working on, and I give you such credit, every actor, that in terms of dialogue, because I guess a lot of people say that, that is it tough for you to memorize dialogue?
No.
Have you always had that kind of gift? You could do it?
I consider myself real fortunate, yeah. I'm very committed about it, become a little bit obsessive about it, I want to be off book as soon as possible so that I can focus on other things. But, yeah, I've been blessed thus far as regards memorizing. Mhm.
For the benefit of me and also other actors out there, I think a bunch of people are going to be watching. It'll be on the theater page on Facebook as well. Any suggestions you can make for learning dialogue?
Oh, people, I mean, I just do repetition, Blaine. That's my process for learning lines. I learn a page, I go back, and then I move forward, and then I go back, and then I move forward, and then I go back. It's just over and over, repetition, repetition, till it gets in, but other people tape, they record and listen. I guess everybody has a different way.
Do you read through with somebody also? Is that helpful for you? Have somebody else read the other part when you're practicing it?
No, I don't. I live alone, so I read to my cat, but that's about it. But when I did Luna Gale, which was a huge role with masses of dialogue, I did go to a friend's house and who lives near me, and we would work together.
Because I was going to say that I can imagine you could do that.
Yeah.
Is that a helpful process?
Yes, it is.
To have somebody read
Yeah.
the other part?
And sometimes these days there's like an app on my phone called Rehearsal Pro, which you can also is useful in that regard.
Do you use that also?
Not much.
Because the other one, I think, without even getting the app, you can just tape it.
Yes.
But help me out on that. I'm picking your brain here a little bit. So when you rehearse it, do you read the other part too, like when you're rehearsing by yourself, and then you say your part? Is that how you do it?
I do, because you have to know your cues.
Right.
So yeah, I have to know the other lines as well. If it's, yeah.
Now, is that something they teach you in acting school also, or is that one of the things you cover, how to memorize dialogue?
I've never been to acting
No,
school.
but the course even, you talk.
No, I don't believe I ever was
Okay.
covered that.
You just
no.
kind of picked it up on your own, or just
Oh, yeah.
started doing it.
Yeah.
Talk about something else, Kay, you've done, which I've been very impressed with, and I always enjoy reading about it, is that now you move from stage, you're starting doing some film acting.
Yes.
You've been on some TV shows, and you're going to be some others. How do you feel about that compared to stage acting?
I think, my heart will always be with theater. There's something that is just indefinable and very magical about the audience. The audience, I think, don't realize how significant they are to the actor. There's a sort of an energy that I can't really describe. I love theater. I do. TV and film is fun. There's a lot hanging around, of course, but theater is what I love. But I got away from it a bit.
And so you've now, I know, I'll follow you on Facebook, and I'll see you're going to Atlanta. That's where a lot of your film work is?
Yes, yeah, and that's where it's all happening. I mean, they call it, I think, the LA of the East, because there are so many studios there now, so many productions going on. And a lot of people like the technical, like makeup and people like that are coming to Atlanta to work because there's so much work here.
Now, have you ever acted in L.A.?
No,
So it's just Atlanta when you're acting. And how many TV shows have you done? Or a bunch?
I wouldn't say a bunch. I've done a few. But I mean.
Now, I know
no.
you have something in the can that's going to be in the future coming up.
Right.
What's that show?
I had a recurring role on a new series that will start. They're supposed to be releasing it in early spring, called Stargirl. And it's based on a Marvel comic. It's DC Marvel comic company. I don't know. I think they have their own streaming device or station. I think it's going to be fantastic, the special effects alone. But that was a very, that was a challenging role. I was in 5 episodes, and played a Norwegian woman. And a number of my lines, not all of them, but most of them actually were in Norwegian.
Do you speak Norwegian?
No, I don't speak Norwegian. So I had to learn these lines, and that was hard, memorizing lines in a foreign language and delivering them convincingly. That was not easy, but I did it.
Did you have to have a Norwegian accent?
Yes.
And give me a little bit Norwegian accent.
I don't know. Well, let me see. I try to think of something that I can say to you.
Great.
I'm not sure. I'm probably veering a little toward Eastern European right now.
But I wouldn't know, though. But that's really cool. So when you were doing the dialogue, it was in Norwegian?
Yes.
All the dialogue is in Norwegian?
Not all of it. Some of the lines were in English, delivered with a Norwegian accent. But most of them, 2/3, were actually in the Norwegian language. Yeah.
Now, when you were learning it, that's really cool. Did you, was it translated for you, or did you dig
Yeah.
up the translation?
It was. Actually, the man who played my husband is familiar with the language, and he would work with somebody else on translation, and it would be printed out phonetically, which really helped, of course, with pronunciation. So yeah, he was very helpful.
And the nice thing, I guess, about it for the audience is that they don't know Norwegian, like what you just were speaking. It sounded Norwegian to me, because I don't know who's anybody in Norwegian. Did they have anybody in the cast or in the crew that was Norwegian?
No, there was no dialogue coach or anything. Just that guy was helping us. And gosh, I was going to say something else.
No, but anyway, you caught a break, though, so that whatever came out, nobody was criticizing because they were Norwegian.
Yeah, and it'll be subtitles.
Oh,
you,
will
you
be?
know, yeah, because I mean they wanted it exact. They wanted it correct in case Norwegians do watch it. So
Is that the first time you've done another language in a film or show?
yes, using I mean I've used accents
Right.
before, but yeah, it's the first time to actually speak in a foreign language.
And one of the things that amazes me, too, not only about you, but other actors having to do with accents, how do you pick that up? Are you just either kind of good with it or not good with it? Like, are you good with accents?
I guess I'm not. I'm not that great, you know. I mean, I have to, for most of the things I audition for, I have to adopt a neutral American accent. So I have to be very careful about British bleed through. Do you know what I mean? But I love to do a Southern accent. I just love doing Southern accents.
Have you done Southern
I
accents?
have, indeed I have. And but if you asked me to do Boston or Chicago, I'd have to work at that. I'd have to study. And YouTube is a good resource when it comes to learning stuff like that.
And you can watch something and pick it up oftentimes?
Yeah.
The one you mentioned, too, where was it? Was it the one, Luna Gale, where you had, where was that set?
God, I can't remember.
I'm trying to think. There was one you had an accent, and it was really good, or
Oh, it was maybe in a clearing.
In a clearing.
Wasn't that like,
right.
I don't know, Wisconsin or
Yeah,
Minnesota
that was it,
or
too.
somewhere up there.
But I loved it because in a clearing, now I remember the show, and I just loved it.
Mm-hmm.
And you and your,
Tom Troga.
yeah, it was great. By the way, did you see his latest show?
No, I missed it, but I bet it was great because he's such a good actor.
Wow, I'm getting a chill, but thinking about it, very,
Yes.
very good actor, very
I
good.
read the review and I didn't get there. I'm so
But,
disappointed.
and they only had a short run, but that was brilliant. And he played opposite Sherry Azar. And it was
That's
just,
right,
oh, it's a shame
right.
you missed it. But first time I had seen him in a clearing,
Yeah.
and with you. But it was just such a powerful play, though. I
It
just
was.
love that.
Yeah, and Emily, she was wonderful.
Yeah, but the whole show was, and again, what was delightful about it just caught me off guard, you know. So that'll be the show you'll be in. Hopefully, I'll be able to, the TV show you'll be in. Hopefully, I'll be able to pick it up via streaming. What are some other film work you've done?
Another one that will be coming out this year is Paradise Lost, and I went down to Baton Rouge for that one. I drove all the way to Baton Rouge, but it was a short scene with Josh Hartnett, and so I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure when that's being released. It'll be this year, but that was very special. He's a fantastic actor.
Well, I think so. Yeah, I don't think
Our scene, he was very emotional in our scene. It was that sort of scene, and it was such a gift to have to be with him.
it's funny you say that because I don't think he gets enough credit, but I think he's a very fine actor.
He is a fine, because he really had to dig deep for the scene that I was in him with, and he was amazing.
Well, now, even in terms of the task of being an actor, that's quite a trip. So you had to go to Louisiana to get
Yeah.
to film it. Where did you audition for it? Do you remember?
Well, all the auditions are here in Asheville.
Oh, they were? Okay, great.
At Screen Artist Talent. That's my agency.
Okay.
And everything is done digitally these
Oh,
days.
yeah.
Sometimes you have to, if you have a callback for a specific role, there wasn't for this one, then sometimes you will appear in person before a group of people, and usually that's happened in Atlanta.
Well, you know, you're giving some good advice to folks that sometimes they miss it. If they miss an audition, especially in the Asheville area, you can ask if you can either go a different date or
You can.
submit it via online or something along those lines. You mentioned, then let's talk a little bit about the Screen Actors Guild, that they're your
Screen Artist Talent.
Screen Artists Talent. Talk a little bit about that group, if you will. They represent you?
They do. John Menick started that agency. I'm not sure how long ago. I've been with him, 5 or 6 years, maybe 8 years ago he started it. He had another small production company in Asheville where he did some small productions for local businesses, I believe. And then he decided to represent actors. And Jesse Boswell is the main person over there. John is primarily a teacher. He teaches many classes. And Jesse is the one who submits us and gets the auditions. And I don't know what we'd do without her.
I was just going to say, another great resource, Asheville-based resource for
Yes.
people
Yeah.
they may want to check.
Yeah, to have a good agency locally instead of having to go to Charlotte or
Now, what they do mostly film work, is that it?
anything, TV.
They don't, less shows, though. They're not as much into theater, I think, as...
No, not theater,
Right.
all on camera.
Where do you see, Kay, yourself going in terms of the future? So right now, you have these 2 shows in the,
Mm-hmm.
in the can. They're going to be on sometime this year, in 2020?
Yeah.
It's going to really be interesting to watch you on IMDb, because we're all of a sudden going to see your name, and then all of a sudden we're going to see a whole bunch of things in 20. It's going to be your year. Do you have anything else you've done film-wise?
I did. I went up to Baltimore for House of Cards.
Oh, that's right. I remember. And I remember, how many episodes in House of Cards
Oh,
were you?
just the one with Robin. Is it Robin Wright?
Right, yeah, it is. Was that fun?
It was. I was very intimidated. I was very new, and to work with somebody like that on a big show like that was a little scary. But hey,
What was your role?
I was a congresswoman.
Okay, wow, very nice. What's your favorite role? If you could be anything, so Congresswoman, you've been a whole bunch of different posts. Any other favorite roles you've had, either in film or stage?
Oh gosh, Blaine, there's just so many. I love Shakespeare is something that I love. Paulina in The Winter's Tale, but I've done so many. Oh, Madame Arcady in Blythe Spirit, just such a
Okay,
hoot.
great role too, yeah.
Such a hoot.
Comedy or drama? Do you have a preference?
I don't really have a preference. I like both.
Have you done any musicals?
Nah, I don't. Well, I was in My Fair Lady, but as Professor Higgins' mother, I didn't really have to sing as such. And yeah, no, I'm not much for musical.
Where do you see your career going? Just kind of what comes available, you're going to pick up?
Yeah. I hope I may get into more, theater in Asheville. I'm really going to try and keep my eye open for that. And whatever the agency comes up with for me. I mean, it's all like gravy at this time in my life. You know what I mean?
Well, like what you said, if you make it, I think you've made it, Kay, in terms of, I wouldn't say if you make it, but just, continue doing what you're doing. It's just really,
fun.
really cool.
Yeah.
And so I guess keeps you a little bit busy, especially when you're in a play or trying to.
Oh, yeah. It's a new family every production. I love it.
Okay, if anybody wants to follow you as to what you're doing or your next show, best bet is to find out about you how.
Well, on Facebook, I don't have a website. A lot of actors do. I don't. I have an IMDb page, which needs updating. That's it.
Okay, well, anyway, we invite listeners to check out Kay Galvin's Facebook page. Look for her. You're going to be in for a treat if you get to see Kay Galvin in any show. And now I'll be looking for, I'll check your Facebook page for a couple of upcoming TV shows you're going to be on. I'd like to thank you for being my guest this second half hour on the BLAINESWORLD show. Also, our guest the first half hour, Chief Burnette and Kelley Klope. And I'd like to have you folks tune in next Wednesday when we'll be here on the BLAINESWORLD show. Thanks for listening. Get this going.
Lee Barrett. US President Donald Trump has delivered a State of the Union address marked by moments of controversy. He used the annual speech to say there's been a great American